Good evening. My name is Susan Amos Palmer. I'm the coordinator of the Growing Through Loss program and director of the North Suburban Grief Coalition. I welcome you tonight to Abiding Savior, our host church. Thank you for coming. I'm not used to this kind of a mic, so it's kind of peculiar and very sensitive. I'll try not to have it hurt your ears. I'm going to open tonight with a reading from this book called The Wind Blows, the Ice Breaks, Poems of Loss and Renewal by Minnesota Poets, edited by Ted Bauman and Elizabeth Burke Johnson. This selection is by Deborah Keenan. It's called Comfort. We have everything we need to believe right here in front of us. I put my mouth on the wound of the tree. I breathed a child in my father's yard. My breath was a valentine, came from my red heart. The tree lived long past the time of its wound. My father went to his grave, and I believed in his death. In the yard I would do his work, taught my children his name. My mother inside the window watched us, and we turned to wave, her love for us involuntary, streaming through the glass. She held her position. My oldest son said, high in the branches of the tree, here are his arms. I am swinging from his arms. The tree turned to me, promised to live until I could do without him. Sister Adair Lassonde is a school. She is funeral services coordinator for Catholic cemeteries. She was a pastoral minister. I'm not putting it on my ear. She's going to use it, so. All right, I think we're working now. All right, I'm going to start the intro over. Sister Adair Lassonde is a school sister of Notre Dame and is funeral services coordinator for Catholic cemeteries. She was a pastoral minister in parishes for 11 years, and before that, she spent 13 years in the classroom in small towns and in the inner city of St. Paul. She is a divorce and child custody mediator, as well as a teacher of skills for support group facilitation. She holds a master's degree in counseling and psychology from St. Mary's University in Minneapolis and was a licensed independent social worker. Tonight, she is talking about emotions and self-care while grieving. Please welcome Sister Adair Lassonde.
I guess from one ear thing to the other with the masks these days, I'm getting to know my ears better. Last week, we talked about loss and grief. And I'm just going to remind you that I started with the idea that loss is the wound, and grief is the healing. So actually, the days and the weeks that you spend here, you're dealing with your loss by reaching out for a sign of healing, hoping that this experience will be part of that healing process. And just to remind you again, that the healing process isn't just this much time or that much time, it's your time. All of that is very unique to you. Tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the healing part because I want to talk about the issue of what do you do with all those feelings that you have? This is something that it doesn't, that we don't look at just because of the fact that we're going through loss. This is a life thing. If we don't take care of the feelings that we have all through life, they can bite us in the back and turn on us. So I want to give you some sense of what I think might be a helpful way to deal with feelings. And by the way, that is the self-care. We talked a little bit about self-care last week, but this is the self-care that goes on and on in your life. I'm going to take a look at feelings and emotions in our life in this way. It's kind of a screwy bit of theology, you might say, or maybe I'll just call it an Adair theology. We take a look at the fact that God made us. And God didn't create us to be a blade of grass or a dandelion in that grass, or a rock or a turtle or a dog. But God created us to be a human being. And my sense of that is, that's our job. If God has made us a human being, that means that that's our job through life, to be the best human being we can be. But then what that means is that we have to embrace all of who we are. God has given human beings emotions. Now, it might be, you might say, well, yeah, but my dog has emotions. It's so sad when I'm gone and all that sort of thing. But it's emotions that we can reflect on, that we can look at, that affects how we are, who we are, how we react, what happens physically to us, emotionally. And that's the thing that makes us unique in God's creation. And of course, you talk about the issue of God has given us a lot of different gifts. One of them is our own free will. And that is sometimes not such a gift, because that's many times the way we have faults in our life and sin in our life and evil in our life and so on. But today we're going to take a look at the issues of what do we do with those emotions all through our life, not just now, but all through our life. So I've taken a look at this. One of the things that I forgot to mention for Sue to put in my biography, my bibliography, whatever you want to call it, is I worked for 30 years at Catholic Charities in the Office for Separated and Divorced. So for 30 years, I talked to people who were losing. They were losing all sorts of things in their life. Loss was just huge. And one of the things that I have learned throughout those 30 years is that in our emotions, what we need to do is, I think, three things. Oh, there it is. Loss is the wound, and grief is the healing. I think there are three things that we need to look at in order to say, how are we going to deal with our feelings? And by the way, everything I say tonight and everything that I give out to you is something that I think. If you don't like it, put it in the round file. So I think that if we're going to take a look at being comfortable with our feelings and dealing with our feelings, one of the first things we have to do is we have to name them. And the reason that we have to name them is that we want to be correct about what it is that we're dealing with. For example, one of the hardest things that it's always been hard for me to deal with throughout my life is feelings of anger. I don't like to be angry. I don't want people to think I'm angry and all that sort of thing. So as I was growing and maturing in life, when people would say, Adair, you seem a little angry, I would deny it. I'd say, no, I'm not angry. I'm a little disappointed. Or I feel kind of sad about it. And in truth, I probably was angry, but I didn't want to admit it. Now, there was probably some reason for that. One is that I grew up in a family that was always up. We had positive views about everything. So if things weren't so good, we'd say they were better. And of course, it did help. Another thing was I was Catholic. I am Catholic. And Catholics even confessed anger. Now, I see some nods. We confess anger. I was angry at my little brother 3 times. Those were the days when we had to take every little thing and look at it. Or we would say, well, that's enough of that. Then another thing that was, something that was difficult for me is as I grew older and through my teens and into the end of my teens, and I wanted to enter the community life of a sister, I entered, and I wouldn't be angry because, oh my goodness, sisters aren't angry, are they? So I had all those things that was coming down on me that were shoulds. That said you should not do this. So I have learned since that time that I can say what my feelings are. If I have anger, I can say, yes, I anger. Now, why? Why is it important to name? I said, "Nam" up here. Nobody said anything. Nobody gasped. Why is it important to name? It's important to name it because you own it more. You become more intimate with it because you say what it is. And by saying what it is, you say it's mine. And by saying what it is, you can deal with it better. You can say, I feel rejection. That's what it is. And it's okay. And that's the thing that you say. Every time that you name your feeling, you say, and that's okay. I've got resentment, and that's okay. I've got jealousy, and that's okay. I've got happiness, and that's okay. Whatever the feeling is, I've got sadness, that's okay. I don't have to have a reason for everything. It's just there. And for any of you who follow the 12 steps, I think you maybe have heard before, in the 12 steps, feelings are neither good nor bad. They just are. Feelings are neither good nor bad. So we don't have to qualify them. We don't have to say, well, I'm angry because da-da-da-da-da. I'm just angry. And maybe something happened that I own this anger, but I have got to name it what it is. And there are levels. I mean, there's levels of sadness. There's deep, deep sadness, which, some people call depression, as we talked about it last week. And then there's a slight sadness, where I feel kind of, what's a word I can use for a light sadness, where I feel a little bit away from things. I don't quite feel part of things. So there are levels of that. And if we can hit the level that we're at, that's good. It takes practice. To name your feeling takes a lot of practice. You say it, and you say, maybe that's not it. I'll get it next time. Instead of focusing on it and trying to beat yourself to death about trying to name it. Now, I am saying, however, that this is something that would take intention. When you are going through loss and grief, there are thousands and thousands of emotions that come through your life, hundreds each day. And in each minute, you can say, you bounce from this to this to this. Each minute we can handle about 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ones and not even know that we've jumped from one to the other. And that's not just because you're going through loss and grief, by the way. A lot of people do that. And so when there's a certain anxiety or some trauma in your life or whatever, loss, grief, you're going to have many, many feelings. So to be intentional about them is hard because you're busy dealing with your grief. But I'm saying that in dealing with your grief, be intentional about what your feelings are and to say that's okay, to try to name them accurately. It'll take time to do that, but to name them accurately. Now, it took me a while to name my anger accurately. As I said, I'd call it everything else. No, I just feel hurt. I'd say anything but the anger word until I was comfortable in saying, that's what it is, and it's okay. The second one, claim those feelings. Name them, claim them. Just thinking of that song, you know how to hold them, you know how to fold them. It's about the same thing. Hold those feelings, name them, and claim them. Claim them as your own. They're yours. They're nobody else's. You are feeling those. And if you have people who are having some of the same loss because of it's the one you lost and the other person has lost that same person, yours is going to be different. And so you claim your loss. You claim the feelings of loss. You claim the feelings of whatever's going on. I feel deserted. I feel anger sometimes. I feel this or that. There are lots of feelings. And maybe you can't name them all, but whatever they are, you can say, I claim this feeling, whatever crazy feeling I'm going through right now, I'm going to claim it as mine. This belongs to me, and it's okay. This feeling is okay. How many of you have probably, this is just a question now, but for yourself, not for everybody, but how many of you have had people say, oh, you shouldn't feel that way? And especially now, when you're going through some loss, you have people that say, well, you should feel grateful, blah, 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 or you should feel this or that. What do they know? They're not in your body. They're not in your mind. They're not in your heart. And so it's important for you to be able to know yourself, that you're claiming your feelings, and the other people that are saying you should feel such and such a thing, they're not in your body. They're not in your heart. And so when you claim them, you're saying, it's mine. Now, this is one of the hard parts of it. You can't say somebody made you feel some way. Now, this is where I get a lot of questions from people, or I get people coming back at me, and that's okay. But when you feel something, let's see, I'm losing my ear here. Am I coming through yet? Yes. When you claim it for yourself, you can't say that somebody made you feel that way. Now, a lot of you sitting here are parents. I have never been a parent, but I've been in this classroom many times. And kids in the classroom would say, well, she made me do that, or he made me do that. Or a lot of people will say, you make me feel this way. Instead of saying, when you do that, I feel this way. Now, maybe it's semantics, but think about it. You made me feel. When you do that, when you say that, I feel this way. Because we are responsible for how we feel. Remember, it's okay how we feel. Now, I'm not losing you, am I? It's okay for you to say, when you say this, I feel this. Not, you made me feel this way when you said that. Because you're the one who's doing the response. And people respond in different ways. Some people shut up and they don't say anything. Some people walk out. Some people just kind of tune you out or whatever. And we have to realize those things in ourselves and say, this is mine. This feeling is mine. So-and-so didn't make me feel this way. What they said wasn't very nice. Like, for instance, if I see Sue once in a while, and if Sue said to me tonight when I came in, geez, Adair, you looks like you put on about 10 pounds since I saw you. She wouldn't do that, but let's say she said that. And I went, inside of me, I steam. Let's say I do that. I own my anger. She didn't make me feel that way. That was my response to what she said, but she didn't make me feel that way. Do you get the difference? I know that's a hard one to get rid of because of the fact that we've lived it most of our lives. I mean, how many times have I heard from people who are divorcing what the other person has made, how they have made them feel? There's a lot of relearning for us regarding something like that. And maybe you don't believe it. But if we went into the science of it, I could probably convince you of that. But I'm not a real scientist, so I can't speak from being an expert. But to claim it is an okay thing, to say, yes, that's mine. That disappointment, that's mine. That happiness, that's mine. A lot of people feel when they are in the throes of grief that they can't be happy. I can't laugh at jokes. People think I'm, kind of past everything. That I don't care for that person anymore. No, we all need those times, those lighter times, and we shouldn't feel that, oh my goodness, I shouldn't be laughing at this time, or I shouldn't be going out with my friends and having a good time, or whatever. So it's the idea of accepting the feelings that you have and claiming them as your own and saying they're okay. I feel okay about them now. I'm going to start feeling better about them. The third one is, and we can go back to any of these as we might think about them. The third one is tame them. So we're going to name them, claim them, and tame them. Our feelings, everybody says, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to get those things out the door. In taming feelings, it means, again, accepting them for what they are, and owning them, as we said, name them what they are, claim them for what they are. They're mine, they're mine. And to tame them means befriend. Befriend them. They're my friends. So when they come, I put my arm around them. Say, okay, you can be here for a while. So in taming them, though, I'm not talking about the taming of, like the lion tamer with the whip and the chair and get that lion in a certain place. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a taming that is befriending. I'm going to be giving you a little story about this in just a second, but the idea that when you tame something, it's not that you put it in submission. It's that you accept it as a friend. Now, maybe taming doesn't mean that in all parts of our life. But when I'm talking about emotions, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this emotion, this resentment, this deep sadness, this rejection, this happiness, whatever it is. I can name it, it's mine, and I can befriend it. Sure, disappointment, you can be here for a while. Or anger, you can be here for a while. So when we tame something, we say that it is not under me, but it's beside me. It's my friend, and I put my arm around my friend. Now, there's certain points at which you can say sometimes, I don't want that to be my friend. It'll hang around too much if I say, yeah, okay, anger, you can be here for a while. But just think about it, though. How many times have you, like a certain, let's just talk about sadness right now. You say, sadness starts to come, and you say, I can't do this. I can't have the sadness. I'm going to go and do something else in order to get rid of the sadness. I'm going to wash the dishes twice. I'm going to do something so that I don't have this sadness. Of course, washing dishes twice would probably bring some people to a lot more sadness. However, what we want to look at is the fact that this is something that is a friend. So we can say to a friend, hey, you're here too long. Would you please go out the front door? You know, if you're sitting out on your deck in the summertime and your neighbor comes over and wants to chat, and she even brings her glass of tea, brought her glass over, and you got to get going because you got some appointments to do to that person if she's your friend. Time to go. I got to get going, and you need to go, and so I'm going now. Or maybe even if you didn't have an appointment, you can say, I spent enough time here now, and I'm going to do something else. Now, that's when we can tame our emotions, and you think that this is getting to be too much. I'm always this way. I'm this way every day, every day. That's when you have to start accepting the fact that this is an emotion that I'm going to have for a while. But when it gets too deep, when it gets something that we cannot seem to handle, what do? We get help. What do is we see somebody and say, I need to talk about this because it's hanging on and I don't know why. I have this feeling that it's been 7 months now since the death of my loved one. And I'm still feeling that this one feeling hangs around a long, long time. And it's good to talk it out. It's just talk to somebody about, I know what to do with you. I know how to deal with you because you're my friend. And I'm going to, how many of you know the story, The Little Prince? You know that story? Okay, some of you probably had to read it in French class in college or maybe high school or something. But it's a wonderful little book. It really isn't a fairy tale for children. It's a fairy tale for adults. So pick it up. I don't even know if you can get it anymore. I've had this for quite a while. But this is a story that I think is tells a lot about human beings and their relationships. But there's this one part that I think is very important for what we're talking about now. It's a story about a prince who lives on a planet that is not Earth, and it comes down to Earth, and it has connections with other things. It wants to learn more, and so it tries to meet other things and people. And so this is part of his journey. It was then that the fox appeared. "Good morning," said the fox. "Good morning," the little prince responded politely, although when he turned around, he saw nothing. "I am right here," the voice said, "under the apple tree." "Who are you?" asked the little prince, and added, "You are very pretty to look at." "I am a fox," the fox said. "Come and play with me," proposed the little prince. "I am so unhappy." "I cannot play with you," the fox said. "I am not tamed." "Ah, please excuse me," said the little prince. But after some thought, he added, "What does that mean, tame?" "It is an act too often neglected," said the fox. "It means to establish ties." "To establish ties?" "Just that," said the fox. "To me, you are still nothing more than a little boy who, just like 100,000 other little boys, and I have no need of you. And you, on your part, have no need of me. To you, I am nothing more than a fox, like 100,000 other foxes. But if you tame me, then we shall need each other. To me, you will be unique in all the world. To you, I shall be unique in all the world." "My life is very monotonous," said the fox. "I hunt chickens, men hunt me. All the chickens are just alike, and all the men are just alike. And in consequence, I am a little bored. But if you tame me, it will be as if the sun came to shine on my life. I shall know the sound of a step that will be different from all the others. Other steps send me hurrying back underneath the ground. Yours will call me like music out of my burrow. And then, look, you see the grain fields down yonder? I do not eat bread. Wheat is of no use to me. The wheat fields have nothing to say to me, and that is sad. But you have hair that is the color of gold. Think how wonderful that will be when you have tamed me. The grain, which is also golden, will bring me back the thought of you, and I shall listen to the wind in the wheat." The fox gazed at the little prince for a long time. "Please tame me." "I want to very much," the little prince replied. "But I have not much time. I have friends to discover and a great many things to understand." "One only understands the things that one tames," said the fox. "Men have no more time to understand anything. They buy things already made at the shops, but there's no shop anywhere where one can buy friendship, and so men have no friends anymore. If you want a friend, tame me." "What must I do to tame you?" asked the little prince. "You must be very patient," replied the fox. "First, you will sit down a little distance from me, like that, in the grass. I shall look at you out of the corner of my eye, and you will say nothing. Words are the source of misunderstandings, but you will sit a little closer to me every day, and you become responsible forever for what you have tamed." And so the little prince tamed the fox. You get it? So according to this little story, the fox is kind of the wise person here and says, "Yeah, please tame me." And that's probably what the feeling does to you, whatever that feeling is. Please tame me. Don't let me go wild. Don't let me overtake you, but be a friend. Now, maybe that doesn't make too much sense to you. And so I'd like to have a little bit of somebody reply or reflect, maybe ask a question that will kind of help bring some of this together. Anybody? Right now I feel a little alone. And that's okay. Well, think about it for a while. As I said, some people say, Adair, that's all trash. I can't get it at all, and I'm not going to even try taking a look at that. And by the way, if you do, and I think it's a good idea if you make some effort in yourself, especially at this time, to say, I'm going to try and name it, claim it, and tame it. You know, I'm going to try and do that as much as I can. Don't beat yourself over the head if there's nothing, if nothing comes of it. Because gosh, I've been thinking about this for 30 years. So, not that it's all new to me now, but for some years I took a look at that and said, these are the things that I see. This is what I believe. And practicing it myself, I feel that it works for me. So, blessings on your efforts, because I think maybe that's some of what. And don't try too hard now during this time that you're grieving. Pay attention to your grieving. That's important. Thank you.
I forgot to mention at the beginning that we are live streaming this, and so it is on YouTube and also on Abiding Savior's website. So if you want to go back and watch it, or you want to have somebody watch it, it's available. And I think under YouTube, it's Growing Through Loss. There's something else. I'm trying to remember. Say what? CTL, GTL, for Growing Through Loss, GTL, North Suburban. So if you want to find it, you can find it that way. And next week, our speaker is different than the brochure, because the man who was going to do it, Stuart Walker, is having health issues, and he decided he wasn't sure he could be here, so he found a substitute. And the gentleman who's going to do it is Deacon John Cleveland, who is serving at Guardian Angels Church in Chaska. It will still be a personal story on coping with grief. Our groups tonight are similar to last week, but if you weren't here last week, come and see me and I can help direct you to what group you should go to, if that would be helpful. So the loss of spouse groups, Jill Peterson, and her room is across from the boiler room. So it's out this door and turn right and then turn left down the hallway. Phyllis Anderson in the fellowship hall. And again, these are loss of spouse groups. Dwayne Nelson, also in fellowship hall, which is out this door to the left and all the way down the left hallway to the back space. That's where fellowship is. And then the last one is John Dahl, and he is all down across from the restrooms. There's a sign on the outside of the space, but there's no name to it. But people found you last week, right, John? Okay. And again, if you have any questions as to which group, come see me. And if you were here last week, you can certainly go to the same group you were in, or you can switch. It's okay. Loss of child, Nancy Matheson will be in the choir room. The choir room is out the sanctuary and then to the right and to the left down that hallway, and it's on the right-hand side. Loss of parent with Tom Schlor in the coffee house, which is out this door to the left and down the hallway on the left. Sue Thompson and Sally Pinkston will be loss of sibling or friend in the chapel. The chapel is down this hallway, turn right and then turn left. Separated or divorced with Jack Anderson and Charlotte Drone in the library. The library is out this door to the left and then turn right, and it's on the right-hand side. Suicide survivors with Michelle Gustafson and Darlene Forgy, and they will be in the youth room, which you can most easily access from the hallway over on this side. So out here and turn right and turn left. And you should adjourn in your groups by 9 o'clock. So if you're in the group and your facilitator isn't moving people along, you can give them a high sign. We like everybody to end about 9 o'clock so people who ride together are able to leave together. All right? Thank you.